We are live. We are live. Let me know if the audio is good. Give me a thumbs up or give me a thumbs down. Let me know. Is the audio good? Audio is good. Welcome. Thank you, everybody. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you for coming on in. We are live. We are live. This is College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends. If you want to donate to this Rebel Outpost, hit the $ where you make a comment and I'll get you a super chat as quick as I possibly can. Look, everybody is welcome into the studio, into the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. We are trying to do a short little live show. Just try to get back in the swing of things. And of course, we started with an audio issue that came out of nowhere because I tested it before we came on live and everything was working. I did not make any adjustments. I just turned everything off, turned everything on, and now it works. So I do not have much of a voice. The wife and I are still trying to recover. We have been sick for a week. So we're going to just do the best we can. And, you know, this is not going to be some groundbreaking show. In fact, we're going to talk about the great work of Brendan Marks and Matt Baker, the Athletic article that came out yesterday. I think last night, maybe. We have missed some news here as I have been sick with the wife. But basically, not a whole lot has changed. We do know this morning, Ross Dellinger reported the Department of Education, as expected, has officially rescinded the NIL-related Title IX guidance that would have put dozens of schools' rev share plans in violation. From the announcement, Title IX says nothing about the revenue generating athletics program should allocate compensation among student athletes. More, the claim that Title IX forces schools and colleges to distribute student athlete revenues proportionately based on gender equity considerations is sweeping and would require legal authority to support it. That does not exist. Not a shocker. So we're back to where we're waiting for some court rulings, when everybody's taking everybody to court here. Maybe someday we're going to find out here soon, is there any equity at all between men's and women and how the money is distributed? Does it have to be close to 50-50 on the rev share? I don't think it's going to end up have to be that, but we shall see. Anyways, I want to thank everybody coming on in. I thank you all. We're going to do just a quick little roll call. Patrick Bear, Michael Batts, Anthony Carlson. Am I feeling better? We are feeling better. Nowhere close to 100%. One of the reasons why we're doing an early morning show, and a couple reasons. One, my Wednesday nights are usually filled with responsibilities. Wednesday nights, it's very difficult for us to do a live show out on like around 4 o'clock Central Time. The time that we normally do one. So we usually do a show earlier on a Wednesday anyways. But I decided to do one now just in case we feel we feel worse later on today. So we wanted to get one through and see how it works and see if I survive the experience with you all. Dave B is in the house. Dave Kapusta, Prof, Expedition Greg, Richard L, Mr. Colorado Buffalo, Penn State Charlie Atwood, Stormy Cyclone, Bill G, Preston from Greensboro, Larry the GM, Ryan Thomas, Friends Call Me Sean, Kyle Visser, Heelan, Florida is in the house. The Evil Badger, Jeff Olson, Illini Ted, Clint Moses, Caleb Ramirez, thanks for coming on in. Jared Jones, thanks for coming on in. Jay Chapman. Jay, I do not have a big show lined up. I've been sick. This is not, this was not a ruse. This was not something that I've been gone for 7 days, gonna come back with a big explosive live show. No, the wife got sick. Pretty sick. You know, she works at the hospital. She helps me take care of my mother. And so then I had to take care of my mother and my wife. Then I got sick. And so we've had people come over the last few days to help take care of my mother. So, no, we have been out of it. Out of it. I think I have been on X maybe 4 times in the last 7 to 8 days. I mean, literally, like, take a look at it type of thing. It's been pretty bad, guys. Been pretty bad. Joseph Lindley is in the house. Stormy Cyclone. Immaculate. Nice to see you, Mr. Hawkeye. Thank you, sir. Nitley89 is in the house. Jonathan Price, thanks for coming on in, Jonathan Price. Okay, let's get to it. We talked about whoops. Brendan Marks and Matt Baker. Article that came out yesterday. Is there a lot of new stuff here? No, maybe not. But still, great work by Brendan Marks and Matt Baker. Some real interesting stuff here. Nuggets of information. Documents reveal that UNC's conference realignment approach, codename ACC, in financial decline. For more than 2 years, North Carolina has secretly sunk more than $600,000 in legal bills for the project that, according to the documents recently obtained by The Athletic, was known by the only a code name, the Carolina Blue Matter. But a code name for what exactly? For UNC, behind the closed doors exploitation of a conference realignment and its future in the ACC, according to two senior school officials briefed on the matter. Now, I would suggest that every school has had something like this, right? I don't care if you're North Carolina, Miami, Wake Forest, Pittsburgh. You've all done something. You've all had some meetings and some code. Give it a secret code name, whatever it may be. When Florida State and Clemson filed a suit, well, when the ACC filed supposedly the day before, and then Florida State filed, every school was scrambling, doing basically the same, I believe. The engagement began in September 2022, 14 months after Texas and Oklahoma announced they were joining the SEC, and less than 3 months after the Big Ten voted to add USC and UCLA, and has continued through at least November 2024, the documents show. That time frame spans arguably the most turbulent period in ACC history, in which two of its most prominent members, Clemson and Florida State, sued the league to challenge contracts that bind schools to the conference, and during which a top UN official privately said his school must explore every available avenue to depart a conference that is in financial decline. And of all the rumors that we've heard at Peek Around the Corner, especially here even in the last 4 or 5 months, PATC, we said, we thought, the chatter behind the curtain told us that February 1st was going to come and go, and ESPN was going to pick up the option, and there wasn't going to be any big news. But even up until the last 5 months, we've got UNC money perched. The UNC has been rattling the cages of all sorts of different cages. They have explored every available avenue to depart the conference. In our opinion here at Peek Around the Corner, we do not believe UNC has been conservative. They have a board of governors that has pretty much all their powers. UNC Board of Regents doesn't have a whole lot. And when they step out, the board of governors comes in and slaps them. Like just recently when we've been gone here at Peek Around the Corner, there's been news that the board, Peter Hans, the president of the systems of the Board of Governors, slapped pretty much the hand of Mr. Pryor, the chairman of the Board of Regents, and he's been slapped down before because, well, he doesn't like Bubba Cunningham. And Lee Roberts, the chancellor of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, has been supporting Bubba Cunningham. So even though North Carolina doesn't have the ability to litigate, to do really much of anything in the world of conference realignment without the Board of Governors, they've been exploring, they've been They've been throwing out stuff left and right. So let me read that again. The time frame in which Clemson and Florida State sued the league to challenge contracts of buying schools to the conference, and during which a top UNC official privately said his school must explore every available avenue to depart a conference that is in financial decline. ACC. According to an email the Athletic obtained through an open records request. North Carolina's exploitations originated when it hired the out-of-state law firms Skadden, Arps, Slate, Meagher, and Flom LLP as counsel regarding commercial issues involving athletics. According to a letter to the school's general counsel, the agreement itself is vague, but the document was first produced in response to a public records request from the Tampa Bay Times last year for contracts with outside counsel on issues related to UNC's conference membership, including realignment and TV rights. Bills to UNC were also nebulous. The first for work through October 2022 was for $39,170 and some scratch for Skadden's professional services with respect to the Carolina Blue matter. The first reference of the code name in the documents, the very first reference to the Carolina Blue matter. Over 25 months, the cost of professional services, fees for Carolina Blue matter, topped at $500,000 according to documents obtained by the Athletic. Invoices in the Carolina Blue matter listed an additional $120,000 for court reporting, which is generally a reference to stenography services. The total includes $7,500 every month from June to November 24. The bills do not specify the court case. 2+ years of bills and related email exchanges never explained the Carolina Blue matter. Skadden lawyers did not respond to questions about them. The university said it can't comment on them. Advice received as part of the consultation with attorneys. And the UNC system, which oversees the flagship Chapel Hill campus and 16 other institutions, had no related records. No related records from the UNC system on the Carolina Blue matter. The two senior UNC officials, granted an anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly on the matter, confirmed what the documents suggested but did not spell out directly that the Carolina Blue matter is North Carolina's Osceola project, right? Carolina Blue matter in a much smaller form. The Carolina Blue matter is North Carolina's behind-the-scenes look at realignment. A source said that look could best be described as the university doing its due diligence amid a constantly shifting landscape rather than an aggressive legal ploy. That said, about half of the matter's total expenses, $310,000, came from work during the first 4 months of 2024. So again, this started September of 2022. But half of the complete expense came from work during the first 4 months of 24. That time frame covers a pivotal period in realignment maneuvering and posturing. The immediate aftermath of Florida State and the ACC suing each other just before Christmas of 23. Dueling lawsuits filed by the ACC and Clemson March of 24. And North Carolina State University system seizing more conference realignment power from individual schools February 24. And we covered that story from head to toe in real time when it was happening, because we knew it was important. Not just to North Carolina, not just to Chapel Hill, not just to Raleigh, not just to Duke, not just to Wake Forest, not just to everybody else in the ACC, but that story was important for the SEC, the Big Ten, and the whole college sports athletic landscape. Duckett, now he was a part of the Board of Regents, wrote that the Tar Heels officials needed to work together to protect UNC financially and with regard to our reputation. The focus, Duckett wrote, should be on improving UNC's finances without private equity. The school had preliminary discussions with multiple firms, just like Florida State, just like Clemson, just like others in the ACC. According to documents obtained by the Athletic, before opting not to proceed and asking the league for transparency instead of an us versus the ACC squabble. Now, this was a while ago, right? Those private equity talks, who knows what they're going to result in, right? We don't know if it's going to come in at a school level. Now, it's going to be very difficult for North Carolina. They got the Board of Governors to deal with. Don't know if it's going to come in at a conference level. We do know that UNC and ACC schools have there to be the same opportunity and options that the Big 12 schools have. The school had preliminary discussions with multiple firms before opting not to proceed and asking the league for transparency instead of an us versus the ACC squabble. Again, Pryor responded, again, Board of Regents, who likes to think he has more power than he has. I firmly believe that protecting UNC financially requires us to explore every available avenue to depart a conference that is in financial decline and is primarily serving its bottom-tier schools. While Carolina once led the ACC, that time is long gone. The current commissioner is not serving our best interests, and simply asking for transparency will not get us anywhere but would be a welcome change. Pryor added regarding the potential 9-figure fee required to leave the ACC that he had no desire to disagree with our own team, particularly in public, but no one should not be making statements that quantify the exit costs at $600 to $700 million. That perception only hurts us. In January, according to documents first published by the Assembly, UNC System President Peter Hand sent Pryor and Chancellor Roberts a memo temporarily suspending some of the Board of Trustees athletics authority because instances continued to occur where members of the board appear to act independently of their campus administration and matters squarely within the responsibility of the chancellor. This gets back to the Bill Belichick. Pryor has been a thorn on the side of, he was a thorn of the side of Kevin Gusowich and Bubba Cunningham. Now he's a thorn to the side of Lee Roberts and Bubba Cunningham. UNC System President Peter Hans has stepped in. I don't want to go through that whole story about the head coach. We've been through that. Here, I'm going to take it up here. It's the premier school, North Carolina, in one of the nation's 10 biggest states in current population and population growth. Its geography could mesh with either Power 2 conference. the Big Ten or the SEC. According to Duckett, as put in an email, we have a landing spot if things blow up. 10 months after his message, things have not blown up. The ACC future looks brighter after ESPN recently picked up its option to extend its TV deal through 2036. Clemson and Florida State have not found an escape hatch without paying an exit fee north of $150 million and risking hundreds of millions of dollars in future TV revenue. Excuse me, sorry about that. There are two schools, and the ACC seem more likely to resolve their disagreements through a revamped revenue models tied to TV viewership and branding than in any courtroom. Let Florida State and Clemson pay the attorneys and see what happens, Duckett wrote. We all learned via their expense. Again, this was months ago, beginning in September 22. Those expenses, Florida State and Clemson, have already reached 7 figures. From March through July 24 alone, Clemson's legal fees topped $1 million, according to invoices received through a public records request. The lawsuits remain ongoing. Former Florida State Athletic Director David Colburn and former school president John Thrasher are scheduled to sit for depositions on Friday in Tallahassee. I do have a question about that. And I want to thank everybody who kept me abreast on these depositions while me and Maria were sick. Is that going to be... You know what? We'll circle back to that. And then finally in the article, it's no coincidence when two of the UNC's ACC peers sued the conference in response to the league's TV dealing falling far behind those of the SEC and the Big Ten, that the Tar Heels followed suit in exploring their legal bounds. The Athletic obtained a previously unreported email exchange that took place around that time, April 24th, between John Pryor and the chairman of the UNC Board of Trustees, who was integral to the school hiring Bill Belichick, former trustees Charles Duckett. Okay, that's enough of that. Again, we did learn some stuff. We did learn there was a code name associated. But this was a lot of back and forth between Duckett, Pryor, right? And to be honest with you, as we have reported, and we've all covered it, and we've all gotten back and forth with each other, we've talked about it forever, I'm going to be, let's be honest, Pryor just doesn't have any power. I mean, he's got personal power, but they don't have the power to do any real movement at North Carolina. So this was an interesting article. Great work by Brennan and Baker. But they don't really have... It wasn't going to go anyplace. Now, the only way that North Carolina can move something on realignment where it's not with their intangibles, which they have a lot of power. I mean, they have a lot of intangible powers within the ACC. They still have that. But when it comes to the courts, the only way that they can get real movement is if North Carolina goes to the Board of Governors and say, this is what we need, and the Board of Governors decides, okay, we'll do this or do that. And we don't see any of that happening, by the way. We were told by the North Carolina Money Perch, and we reported it a couple months ago, probably by now. No, a month ago, I would say, that if North Carolina ever went to the Board of Governors And there is no evidence that this has officially happened. There's no paper trail that we know of that they're going to bring North Carolina State with them. That is the message that we've been receiving, that it's not going to be, if things go really bad here, for whatever reason, for the next couple of years in North Carolina, there's the impetus for them to do something on in a legal matter. They get their board of governors on board. It sure sounds like to us, we've been told they're going to have to bring North Carolina State with them, no matter what they try to pull off, what magical beans they have ready to sprout. Okay, I'm way behind. I thank you guys so much for your support, just for showing up on a Wednesday morning, first time back in a week. It's obvious I am not all that well, but we're going to go as long as we possibly can. Ryan Thomas, PATC News Show, Days of the ACC Lives. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Thomas. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. Daniel Gorby. While all this was going on, UNC Cunningham chastised Florida State for suing the ACC. Hypocrisy. Florida State has never been connected to Packer Road schools. David Gorby, thank you for the super chat. Now, if you notice, Cunningham might not be, yeah, I better be careful what I say. True. Some of that, I can see the hypocrisy in that. North Carolina did chastise Florida State. Bubba Cunningham did it personally. But again, of course, it wouldn't be very professional of them not to look into their own legalities. Like they explored. Let's be honest. You're correct, Mr. Gorby. I mean, North Carolina has not acted in the way privately as what they have said in public. They have been very aggressive in exploring any opportunities to change the current ACC. And that includes that ridiculous, radical dissolution theory. But it was North Carolina that led the way on that. It didn't go anywhere, and it probably won't. And everyone has said that. Even the ones who believed that it was more of a chance than I did. It's always been a super long shot. It's a radical proposal. Radical. But it was North Carolina who was talking most of it. North Carolina has done a lot of, they're not able to go to the courts. Even if they wanted to, they could not do it without the Board of Governors. Board of Governors ain't probably not going to let them have that unless North Carolina State was part of all this. Yeah, so I understand that, Daniel Gorby. I understand Florida State people still being a little bit upset with North Carolina. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Anthony Carlson. So the ACC slowly dying. Anyway, like I said, welcome back. Thank you, Anthony Carlson, for your generosity, being an early peak Cloakin member for 10 months and 20 gifted memberships. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Anthony. I do appreciate it so much. Lewin Carter, Yellow, Martian, Irvin Williams, Greg Calhoun, Jen Knoll, James Haley, Adam Moore, Russell Buchanan, Antoine Johnson, BR7062, Bob Swanger, Skaven, yes, Dave B, Pretty No Girl. Who else did I miss? My bad. Matt Higgins, Anthony Zappin, KS Beer Fan, Joseph Lindley, Chris Evans, and Marquis Crenshaw. All of you have been knighted, cloak and dagger. You are now members of our channel. Go to our YouTube channel and check out Early P Cloak and Dagger membership only episodes. We got to produce some more here at Peek Around the Corner. Again, I apologize. We've been out here for the last week. Myself and the little general, we are trying to recover. This is the third major cold, flu, whatever you want to call it, that I've had in 6 months. From August until now, this is the third time. And they've all been different from each other. This one, just to let you know, this one, there was like 3 days here in the last week where I've had waves of chills in which I got a little delusional, like in bed. Like, I'm not sure what was reality, what wasn't. Fever chills, wave after wave after wave. There was like 3 days where I just, but I want to thank Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar, who's in the moderator, who helped me out after I helped her out. Now we're both trying to help each other out to try to get through this. Love you, honey. Thank you so much for your support. Anthony Carlson, incredible generosity. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. So much, Anthony. My goodness. Let me see if I've caught up here. Yep, I've caught up. Unbelievable generosity. Thank you, Anthony Carlson. Mr. Spartan. By the way, Michigan State's on their way to winning the Big Ten hockey championship, possibly. Michigan State and Minnesota are going to be what? Two of the top 4 teams in the playoffs, in the hockey playoffs. I think it's time the Big Ten brings home a national championship since the creation of the conference. Jose, my wife, and I got over the same fever and chills a couple weeks ago. No, it's not that, Illini Ted. Not that. Not that. Okay, we are going to open up your phone lines and you can talk football, college football, anything you want to talk about. Okay. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Phone lines are open. We can talk, or there is some other news items that I can go through, but I'd rather have you guys call and do the talking and I do the listening. What are the big news items in the last week that I have missed? There's another lawsuit. That was just, let me show you one quick second here. Ross Dellinger, another lawsuit has been filed against the NCAA's eligibility rules. Alberto Sanchez, a Tennessee baseball player who competed in JUCO, files a suit claiming that his JUCO years should not be counted. Ross Dellinger has another tweet out there, a chart from the NCAA delivered to member schools today, outlining what it means to opt in into the House settlement. So if you want to take a look at that, I'm not going to read it all. My voice is already leaving us. How the projected 20.5 million annual rev share cap is calculated. How the pool cap is calculated. So if you want to go to Ross Dellinger's X account, go ahead and you can take a look at that. Before we had left you, due to illness, we did a top ranking of
from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
Oh, actually, you all of a sudden had me right there with the pointing out the opting in part, because I actually think there's a lot of mistaken opinion from folks on what that actually means.
Okay.
So it's really kind of interesting you point that out. I think a lot of people think this means that it's opting into the payments of the past. But there is no such thing. That's being taken care of by the 5 power conferences and the NCAA. So it is for people to read. I'll probably end up making a post about this, but for people to read that and really understand that this is about opting into the future and what's being aligned in this, and such things that may or may not be governed over by the autonomy board. As we've seen, they're already creating an LLC that's going to be doing kind of the enforcement angle, but they'll be overseeing it. So it's, instead of just creating a large internal bureaucracy, I guess, kind of like how the NCAA is, they're going to start doing things where they create these independent groups that are overseeing. I don't want to make this comparison because some folks are going to hate it, but it's like, it's kind of like Federal Reserve, right? Like it's overseen and looked over, but it operates independently. But that's kind of interesting that he's putting that out right now. Kind of makes me wonder who pushed him in that direction, and you might have some thoughts on that. But most of all, man, really glad to see you back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're back, but we're not back. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. I don't know how I skipped it, man. How it didn't hit me. My wife got nailed though. She's been down for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
It went from just a regular whatever to a full-blown infection. And yeah. I think that's what's going around a lot. There's a lot. It's been a pretty rough season for this stuff. So
yeah.
Glad to see you're looking all right. I mean, while you weren't doing shows, I didn't really know. So
yeah,
good news there. Even if you don't got a lot to talk about today, it's just kind of good to see you doing better.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. I was expecting 30 people to show up, and we had over 140. I'm very humbled by that. I want to thank everybody. I was not expecting that. Thank you, everybody. It's not much of a show today, so I want people to call in and talk whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah, I actually had plans. I was already going to be gone and working at this point. I was like, nope, I'm going to push that back a little bit. I'm going to call in and at least say hello to Greg.
I appreciate it, my man. Thank you so much.
And, honestly, I don't know. I mean, the North Carolina stuff is really interesting, right? But for anyone who's been following this pretty closely, I mean, it's not shocking. Would you say it was shocking?
No. and pretty much all of it's, um, I mean, great work by Marks and Baker.
Oh,
just,
God.
just to get
Actual
anything,
investigative reporting.
just to get anything out there. But a lot of this is, already. I mean, obviously, it's already old because, it's, the most newest stuff is like in early 2024. So I think people are yeah, did they took a look at private equity? Sure, they did, but they're all looking at it again, obviously, right? This isn't of 2 years ago. This is it's almost all of this is old news, but
Yeah.
it's it's fascinating to look at it. And again,
It's
it's
good
mostly from
detail.
prior, so it's like, you know,
It's really good details. Like we kind of knew this stuff, but man, we didn't have any like specific numbers.
yeah,
When you look at 600,000 spent, that's not a small amount. I mean, now if they were actually to go to court and do things, that number would be a small amount, but they're not. So like just as preparation and this is just legal fees. It's not like what we call man hours by your other administrative employees on trying to figure things out. But just to look at the legal aspects of doing it, that's a lot. I think I could be wrong,
yeah,
but that was a pretty eye-opening amount, I thought.
yeah, yes, yeah,
So, so yeah, I mean, other than that, I think we're kind of sitting here and waiting until April. I mean, we have the Department of Education came out. I made a little point. I don't know if you saw it or not, but when they specifically spoke about how Title IX is 50 years old, I, I think it's looking like the Department of Education is going to put out their own, this new department, a new guideline saying that they need up-to-date legislation. So if there's anything I'd say to expect here in the near future, it's that. And I think congressionals will use that. And we'll probably kind of see a bit of a public negotiation debate starting to happen. I think we're seeing it now. There's a particular congressperson who said women should get 50%. I consider that to be a starting negotiation point.
yeah,
That's what they're saying. To get us to go along with this, because you need 60 senators to agree, going to have to get some Democrats on board. It's a starting point. And so I had a conversation with someone on X. I'm thinking probably 20 to 25% guaranteed towards women is probably where we end up at. Do I have anything to base that on? Not really. I don't even really know what the starting point is for the NCAA side, right? But
yeah,
Title IX already guarantees women, equal number of scholarships. So that's not even going to be in the negotiation. So I'm expecting to see some type of guaranteed amount for women's sports. And with the rise of women's basketball value and whatnot, I think it could end up being a percentage that will surprise people. Like it'll be a good amount of this.
yeah.
That's pretty much it, though. I don't know if no Hawkeye news, man.
Yeah.
Nothing to really go on.
No, baseball's starting up here. But yeah,
Yeah, I've been told. Unfortunately, I barely follow that, so
yeah,
we'll see. I think right now the sport at hand is realignment, and I consider House and all of these other things to be part of that, because once the governance that is in that gets instituted, man, we're full go. I hope you're in good health when that hits.
a week from today is the advisory meeting between Big Ten and SEC. So February.
Yeah, I
19th.
got some thoughts on that too. I don't know if anyone's looking to call in, they should just call in. Then I know to shut up. But I don't see those two as competitors at all anymore. They don't share any network partners. I think that could be a very big deal. What you're talking about here. I mean, and I've kind of shifted my beliefs on the SEC. You know, I think Sankey talks too much and talks about how they're not interested in things. I don't consider that to be the case anymore. I'm not sure where you stand on that, but I definitely think that the SEC is hunting right now. And when you see stuff like this with North Carolina, willing to spend that amount to look over this, you got to say that they've got to be their number one target, right? And if they're hunting for more and more time slots to get more and more pay for their next negotiation, I don't know of any other way to really do that other than what they're doing, which is taking on the ACC in basketball, who in the past has always taken the majority of ESPN basketball slots, and seeing some of their top value members leave. At that point in time, you get more time slots from ESPN, and when next negotiation comes, you're saying you're going to have to raise the payout ESPN. So I think Sankey has been way too active in his attempts to say that we're not doing anything. That, to me, spells that the opposite is the case.
Yeah, I don't know what there is to be done right now in regards to SEC expansion. Obviously, their number one target is North Carolina. It has been for quite a long time. Everything Brett McMurphy reported was absolutely factual, and we all know the reasons why. You just brought up it's multiple reasons, but I want to be careful because I have learned this lesson over and over and over and over and over again. Anytime I speculate on this show, people write down, Greg's reporting. Greg reported it wrong. It's like, jeez. It's like I literally can't say anything because you got some doofus out there who doesn't know the difference between reporting the peak around the corner and speculating. But
yeah, and that's difficult because that's the fun part.
Yeah, and we're gonna have fun on this show.
Right.
But I really do mean this when I say this. Because I've gone back and looked at my X account here since I've been gone, and one person says, why is Greg so sure that North Carolina is going to end up in the SEC? And I didn't answer, this was already a 4 or 5 day-old thing, and I haven't been answering anyone's because I've been pretty much out of it, right? But I just want to make it clear here, guys. I'm not sure of anything. How could I possibly be sure of any? All I can say is that the SEC, as of over the last few years, their number one target has been North Carolina. But I'm not going to close the door down I'm not going to close the door down on North Carolina ending up with the Big Ten 6 years from now. Who would do that? Nobody would do that because there's so many variables from here to 6 years from now or 4 years from now or 2 years from now. But for all the reasons we've talked about, and I think the one reason that's really going to rear its head is the student apocalypse. There is so many reasons why North Carolina, Virginia, and those schools will probably be targeted for the SEC. SEC is going to target them. And the Big Ten, if they have an opportunity to go for it, they'll go for it. They'll go for North Carolina. But yeah, no, the SEC, that's where they want to expand when the opportunity arises. Now, when is that opportunity going to rise in 2030, 31, or earlier? We shall see.
Yeah, just real quick on that before I think the state of North Carolina actually has more value to the SEC than it does to the Big Ten because the SEC has determined to limit itself on where it can expand to.
Uh-huh.
Right. So with such limited choices in that regard, they need that. They need to get North Carolina because what do they have? North Carolina, Virginia. I don't know. Maybe some would say in the state of Kansas, but they're not going too much farther. Whereas the Big Ten's kind of looking, hey, we can now basically look at adding anyone from anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
So there is now a difference in value there to where taking on two schools from that state is probably more feasible for the SEC than it does for the Big Ten.
Now, I just want to say this before I lose. I will. Xavier Wolf in the comment section. Greg, you don't portray yourself as a reporter, sports expert. Some others on YouTube can't say the same. Speculate all you want. This show is fun. I do appreciate that. But there are times that I go out there and I report something, right? And if we get it wrong, I'd like to think that we take the L, even on the smallest detail wrong. Immaculate, there may be something here that I'm going to have to take the L on.
Oh,
Yes. I don't know, but there I got a tingling sensation that maybe, just maybe, I'm going to have to come up here and take the big L because it wasn't speculation. It was a report that we put out. 4 months, Immaculate, as you know, last September 9th, we did a show about the Big Ten pushing for 4 automatic qualifiers, right? And
yes.
Recently, I said it was a fait accompli. I said, look, if the Big Ten and the SEC don't both get 4 automatic qualifiers in the next iteration of the college football playoffs, past what we're doing in 25, going on to 26, I'm going to take the big L. But don't expect me to take the L. Well, I've had somebody talk to me recently before I got sick. Going back to this, well, maybe the SEC isn't totally convinced. Maybe they only want 3. Maybe they want more at large. So here I am again. But I'm telling you, that's the difference. That's a report that I put out. If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. Then we'll have fun dancing on my grave. But that's the difference. Like speculate. Most people get it. Like 99% of the people in the PATC get it, right? They get speculate. We talk. We learn from that. I learned from Immaculate. I learned from everybody in the chat room. We learn from each other. And then there's stuff that I've got that I report that most of the time happens eventually, or I gave you the correct peek around the corner. But maybe me saying what I said about a fait accompli and the 4 automatic qualifiers, it might come up to bite me in my ass. Go ahead, Immaculate.
You're teasing me. Greg. I was itching to start getting out of here so the next person can call, and you just brought that up because we have had that conversation. Because you were reporting that, and I said I feel like that's a starting position, and that it could eventually go to 3 AQ as long as there is enough at large to where it's basically 80, 90 or higher percent assured that the Big Ten and the SEC would each get in that large spot as well. So they get their 4. Does that make much sense? So I'm really interested, like maybe as like a whole other show. Talk about that and what you're hearing in that, because to me, that's a big deal.
I'll just say it real quick. The person who told me this, it was telling me, slow down, you move too fast, Greg. You got to make the story. Okay, I won't sing because my voice is gone. but because the one scenario that the Big Ten has had at least talks beyond there's been one specific scenario that there's been some talks in the Big Ten, and that is doing 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the 1 versus 2, the championship game, that continues on. The 3 versus the 4 is the play-in game for the automatic spot, and bam, you got your 3 automatic qualifiers. Your 1 and your 2, doesn't matter if you lose the championship game, you got an automatic qualifier. And the 3 versus 4 play-in, the winner of that automatic qualifier. Those are your 3. That's the one, I guess there's been more discussion on that scenario than all the bigger ones and the smaller ones. So that's
interesting.
Yeah. So
because the 1 versus 2 already has a value, right? Like it's the best 2 teams. Like you don't have to sell that hard.
Yeah.
The 3 versus 4, if you're the network, you're saying, I don't know, that's not as good. Like especially if you're the Big Ten, and okay, who's going to get what? You've got 2 games. You've got Fox, CBS, and NBC. So if you're trying to get one of them to want to take that 3 versus 4, because Fox is going to want 1 versus 2.
Yeah.
You have to make that a higher value, and if that becomes an elimination game. Not only is that a higher value, it might actually be a higher value than the 1 versus 2, just in terms of viability for viewership, what people are going to be interested in. Elimination games are high value. So that's interesting that you've come across that.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's considerable logic to that. Like I'd say that's for real.
Yeah. So.
But anyways, yeah.
I do appreciate the call, Immaculate.
Absolutely. Looking forward to hearing more about that part as well. And good to see you're up and going, man. Have yourself a good one.
Thank you. Thank you, Immaculate. Immaculate got me through some time, and I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the L. It shows you have integrity. Thank you, Xavier Wolf. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your generosity. And I'm very humbled that over 140 people are watching this. Thank you so very much.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole is on the line. The floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. I'd ask how you're doing, but you don't sound so great. And hopefully you don't take offense at that.
I'm exhausted.
When you were talking about being really sick and hallucinating, that's the way it was with my last bout of COVID. I've had COVID twice, and I think my last bout, I think it was 2023. First time I had it was really no big deal. But second time, it was like it was trying to kill me.
Yeah.
I mean, it was trying hard. It changed its characteristics every 2 days, and I struggled for 2 weeks. And I mean, it became like a strep throat, and then when 2 days later it was like a bad case of the flu. Then it morphed into an upper respiratory, and then it just repeated the cycle, and then it mixed it up, and it was just so weird. But I hope you get to feeling better. I really do.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You had talked recently about you expected something from North Carolina. Or let me rephrase that. Your contacts believed some type of a statement before August 1st.
Yes.
Is something like this that type of statement, or is it still believed there's going to be something more formal?
No, I think definitely not this. This is old. This is back.
Sure.
No, I think basically it's going to be around private equity. That's whatever statement they got to make, whatever, because again, the private equity part of this article, again, this is old. This is preliminary talks in 2022, 23. And Florida State had the same thing, and so did Clemson, so did other schools. But it's hard to do all that. It's hard to even have an option of doing on that when you got a conference suing two of its most valuable football brands. And then when those two football brands are suing back, it just ain't gonna happen. But this is what everyone's working on now, or talking about once again, and I think that is, excuse me, that is the that's gonna be, there's gonna be something like either, I don't know. I mean, if I knew, I'm definitely not embargoed on it. I would say it, but we think it has something to do with private equity at a conference level.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not because, and I keep saying this, but I'm going to say this. I don't think most, and I mean this with all the love and the care that I have for every college football fan out there, but for 90% of us, that maybe even higher, but I will just use that 90%. 90% of your football programs out there are struggling to make all this work right now. They're struggling.
Absolutely.
And that includes probably at least half of the Big Ten teams, maybe 2 or 3 of the SEC teams, pretty much everybody else. It definitely includes my Gophers. This is not going to be. All this is a struggle to find for the rev share money and to keep going with the recruiting budget, everything to keep everything on track while inserting this rev share reality into your world. And then you're not quite knowing what to do. You're hiring a general manager. You got contracts. Everyone needs a little bit more money. Everyone needs more money. Pretty much everyone needs more money. And you got a whole bunch of money that wants to come in. Boy, it's so hard. It's so hard to keep status quo. You are tantalized by that money that you need. I mean, look at North Carolina. You got Bill Belichick, their new recruiting, new everything. New money needed for everything under Bill Belichick. You think North Carolina's just easy coming up with all that money? No, they're not. Now, a lot of universities are going more and more into their own pockets, to their auxiliary funds. Michael Alford just went to the Board of Governors in Florida to ask for if the athletic department can go into its own institutional auxiliary funds to help pay for this new world. People are trying to find that extra dollar. And if you want to call it private equity, if you want to call it strategic partnership money, third-party money that's sitting out there saying, we'll come in, we'll help you out. Man, it's tough for everyone to keep saying no to all that.
I get it. I really do. Some of the biggest acquisitions that these football programs are making is their back office acquisitions. They're bringing in not general managers, CFOs. Those type of moves are making news now. And it is truly, it's always been a business, I guess, per se, but it's truly becoming a business. And I think I forget if it was Sankey or who made the statement months and months ago talking about where we stand in college football, that it's kind of messy in this time period, but and I'm really paraphrasing. I mean, I don't remember the exact quote, but they were just talking about how messy this time period is, but the end goal, it might be worth it. Maybe, but if they really aren't careful, I mean, if the P2 tried to break away, and I'm not going in that direction, it would ruin the sport. But they're also in danger of ruining the sport by the Power 2 becoming the overlords of the sport. I always just kind of looked at the whole idea of a commissioner, a college football commissioner, kind of side-eyed. I'm like, I get it, but it'll never happen. If you're going to go into a full-on business model, I think some type of a governing structure, and I know the Autonomous Four are working on that. They're govern themselves, and maybe that's their plan. But we're heading into dangerous waters that the sport could just get completely broken if there isn't some type of restraints put on. And I don't know what those restraints are, because, now the players are expecting you to get paid, and you need the money. So it's, in general, things are just a mess. They are. And I'm fascinated, but there's also times where it irritates me. Yeah. And I got to check out for a few weeks.
Sure.
But I'm looking at the ACC and the fact that the ESPN gave them a bargain deal, and they didn't really have any choice but to accept it. But I don't get the sense that the membership is still all that thrilled with their deal. And I know that's where private equity come in, and I think private equity would be the manner to do the unequal revenue sharing. I think most member institutions will probably, and this is my speculation, get their base dollar amount, and then private equity money would be used to help do the unequal revenue sharing. But then, what if the Big Ten and then the SEC do unequal revenue sharing? What if in 2032 the disparity isn't 10 or 20 million, it's 60, 80 million per university? I don't think that's going to be the case, but there's always the possibility, and it's all driven on media value and fan bases and successes. And I caught part of Immaculate's phone call, and the one thing that you have to say about the SEC, yes, the SEC this year is a more dominant basketball conference, but they've become a basketball conference. They've become very dominant in basketball. Now they're dominant in most every sport. They're dominant in baseball. They're dominant in softball. They're dominant in a lot of the Olympic sports. And it's just a higher revenue availability to them. And even though this ACC deal now has been passed and we have the grant of rights, there's going to have to be something significant that happens in the next 2 years for the membership just to accept it. Have you heard anything? I know you said, I caught part of what you were saying, that the dissolution theory doesn't sound like it's going to happen. Has that actually gone away, or is it just the assumption that now that the membership just doesn't think that it would pass, or they'd have the votes?
Well, what do you mean by it's always been the dissolution thing has always been an extreme long shot, right?
Yes, sir.
Has the threats gotten away? Has the threats, I don't know. Let me put it. It's been talked. They talked about the dissolution theory a couple different times. We know in public. One, we know that they talked about it. Bubba Cunningham talked about it with Gusowich and Jim Delaney, with Gusowich, right on June 30th, 2022, when it was announced that USC and UCLA were going to the Big Ten. We know that they talked about it when they had those subgroups discussions, the Magnificent Seven. But those discussions haven't just stopped at that point. They've been having talks amongst themselves forever, since all that time. The talks didn't just stop, right? But are they serious? Are they ready to do this? If it ever happens, it's going to be one of those things where it's going to hit us that no one's going to see it. No one's going to see it coming.
Well, I agree.
But it's a long shot, though, man. I mean, it's an extreme long shot.
Well, I agree with you on that. It's just now that private equity seems determined to get involved in the sport. Yeah. So I would imagine that in the past, when it seemed like that was just a crazy concept of a dissolution theory, whether it's a new conference or it's a manner to just break away and get out of the ACC and bleed into the other three conferences, whatever the end game is for that decision. I thought it was a long shot. I still think it's a long shot, but I do believe the odds have gone up, and I don't believe that the picking up the option on the ACC deal has caused those odds to dwindle. I still think there's discontent. There's enough people that say things that I believe what they say, that there's still discontent, and we shall see. We're just a few weeks past that. I noticed that now we're heading into depositions, and that there's other things, and then there's still unhappiness. There's public statements, and granted, they're older statements, but there's still public statements circulating about the lack of faith in the commissioner. Very interested to see how this goes, for sure. Yeah. And but anyway, I just thought I'd call in to say hello and hope you get feeling better, and thought I'd chat for a minute, but I appreciate you.
You got it. I appreciate it, my man. Thank you so very much.
Have a great day.
Beautiful call. Thank you, JD, Mr. Seminole, the original Mr. Seminole of PATC. Thank you so very much for calling. We're going to shut this show now. We've been on the air for an hour and 18 minutes. A little bit longer than I was planning on going the first time out of the chute in the last week. Still battling. We're still not well here at the Flugar house, but we're getting better, hopefully. Hopefully I don't go backwards here. But yeah, this is about as long as I could possibly go. I'm so humbled that at one time we had over 150 people watching on a Wednesday morning. Really nothing planned. We did we covered, if you missed it, we did cover, the Marks Baker article on UNC Conference Realignment Approach. So go check it out. Go to the beginning of this live show and go check it out. We cover the article. I am so very humbled that you all joined us. Ryan Willie, is Belichick going to use his girlfriend to help recruit? If you got him, smoke him, right? You might as well. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for being a early Pete Cloak and Dagger member for 14 months. Holy smokes. Thank you so very much. Ryan Willie, officially Cloak and Dagger member. 14 months. Thank you. I do appreciate your kindness, your generosity once again. Anyways, I'm going to go to bed, and I hope to see you guys later on tomorrow for another live show as we ramp up here off season 2025. A week from now, the advisory board, SEC Big Ten meet. We got a lot to cover. We're going to do our way too early top 25 here real soon, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking a lot of college football. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.